I never should have agreed to that bet. It started on a Friday night, the house too quiet, the air too thick. My boyfriend Chris had left for a weekend trip with his parents, and I was left alone in the house with Tyler, my stepbrother. Tyler and I had never really been just brothers. We weren't close enough to fight like real siblings. But we weren't distant either. There was always something strange in the way he looked at me. Not hostile, just knowing. As if he saw something in me I wasn't ready to see in myself. He was older by 5 years, 26, confident, lean and tall with the kind of presence that made you second-guess your own. Tyler didn't walk into a room. He owned it, and I hated how aware I was of him, especially when Chris wasn't around. "So," he said, slouching onto the couch beside me with a beer in hand, "you really gonna spend your night alone, scrolling through TikTok while your boyfriend's away?" I rolled my eyes but didn't respond. Tyler had a way of poking, pressing, until he got the reaction he wanted. He smirked. "I've got a better idea. How about we play a game?" I paused. "What kind of game?" He leaned in just a bit too close, his voice a shade lower than it needed to be. "Just a simple one. Shots and cards. We each take turns answering questions or taking dares. You chicken out, you drink. Whoever taps out first loses." I raised a brow. "And the winner gets what?" "Whatever he wants," Tyler said, and that smile, God, that cocky, dangerous smile, settled on his face like he already knew how the night would end. I should have said no. Instead, I said, "Deal." It started innocent enough. Stupid dares. Silly questions. Who was my first crush? What was the dirtiest text I'd ever sent? He made me chug tequila when I refused to read one of Chris's messages out loud. I made him fake moan my name just to get even. But the line kept creeping closer, and we didn't stop it. By the fourth shot, the room felt too warm, and Tyler's eyes lingered a little longer. The cards were a blur. I don't even remember what I asked him when he leaned in, brushed his fingers over my thigh like it was nothing, and said, "Your turn. Truth or dare?" I hesitated. "Truth." He smiled again. "Have you ever thought about kissing me?" Silence. Just his eyes on mine and my pulse in my ears. I laughed nervously. "You wish." "Not an answer," he said smoothly. I took the shot. He leaned back like he'd won something already. "Interesting." I tried to act unfazed, but something in me had already cracked open. We kept playing, but I was spiraling. I'd never cheated on Chris. Never even considered it. But the way Tyler watched me, so sure, so damn unapologetic, was unraveling things inside me that I'd tried to bury. And somewhere between drinks 6 and 7, I slipped. "You ever wonder what it'd be like?" I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine. He didn't blink. "Every day." I looked away. My throat was dry. "You're not supposed to say things like that." He chuckled. "Why? Because of Chris?" "Yes." He nodded, eyes thoughtful. "Then maybe you should have picked dare." "What would you have dared me to do?" Tyler stood slowly, walked over, and stood right in front of me. The air shifted. His presence was overwhelming. He took the empty shot glass from my hand, set it aside, then leaned down so we were eye level. "To let go for once." I swallowed. "You think you know me." "I do." His hand brushed mine. "I know you're bored. I know you miss feeling wanted. I know Chris plays it safe, and I don't." I didn't pull away. I should have. But my body had gone still, quiet, waiting. "You lost the game, by the way," he said, voice like smoke. I blinked. "When?" "When you stopped pretending you didn't want to know what I'd do to you." Silence stretched between us. Every second felt like a lifetime. I should have left. I should have told him to fuck off. I should have called Chris and reminded myself who I belonged to. But I didn't. Tyler leaned in, brushed his lips just barely against my cheek, and whispered, "You're mine for the night." My breath hitched. The room tilted. And everything changed. I should have walked away. I should have told him it was the tequila talking, that whatever he thought he saw in my eyes was just heat and alcohol and boredom. I should have gone to bed, shut the door, and drowned in guilt. But I didn't. Instead, I stood there like gravity had changed, like I couldn't move without his permission. Tyler looked at me the way a storm looks at a coastline, knowing he could destroy me and still daring me to stand there and take it. "You okay?" he asked, voice softer now. A careful trap wrapped in silk. I nodded, but the lie tasted bitter. "Yeah. Fine." He stepped closer, his chest nearly brushing mine. "You don't look fine." His hand reached out, slow, unhurried, and touched the edge of my jaw. A feather-light graze, as if he wasn't entirely sure he was allowed. My skin lit up like a live wire. I whispered, "You're my stepbrother." "And you're taken," he said calmly. "So maybe you should stop me." But I didn't. I just stood there, letting him cross every invisible line I'd drawn. Tyler tilted his head and pressed his lips to mine. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't forceful. It was calculated, methodical. A test, like he wanted to know how far he could go before I pushed him away. I didn't. His lips tasted like tequila and danger. Like something I swore I didn't want until I had it. My hands stayed at my sides, fists clenched, as his tongue slipped past my lips and every promise I'd made to Chris disintegrated in the space between us. I kissed him back. God help me, I kissed him back. He pulled away only when I let out a shaky breath. "Still pretending this isn't happening?" I shook my head. I wasn't pretending anymore. Tyler took my hand and guided me to the couch. He sat, legs spread wide, pulling me down to straddle him like we were lovers and not two people about to set a fire we couldn't control. My heart pounded in my throat. Guilt was a drumbeat under my skin, but I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. His fingers slid beneath the hem of my t-shirt. I tensed, but he moved slowly, reading me, watching me. It wasn't just about getting what he wanted. He was learning how I liked it, how I needed it. "You think Chris touches you like this?" he murmured, mouth tracing the side of my neck. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because Chris didn't. Not like this. This wasn't just physical. It was territorial, raw. As if Tyler wanted to own me, piece by trembling piece. I hated how much I wanted him to. "You've been lying to yourself for a long time," he said. My fingers dug into his shoulders. "Shut up." He laughed quietly. "You don't want me to shut up." Tyler laid me back on the couch. His hands roamed over my chest, my ribs, my hips. Never rushed, never careless. Each touch chipped away at the version of me I thought I was. The faithful boyfriend. The responsible one. The guy who'd never betray the person who trusted him most. I was none of those things now. The night unfolded in silence and breath and heat. I don't remember everything he did, I only remember how I felt. Exposed. Seen. Claimed. There was no music. No background noise. Just the sound of skin, of whispering voices, of restraints snapping and falling away. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't gentle. It was something else entirely, something I didn't know how to name. Afterward, I lay there, half naked, my head spinning. Tyler lit a cigarette, exhaled smoke, and looked over at me like we'd just shared a secret the world wasn't ready for. "You okay?" he asked again. This time, I didn't answer. I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ever see Chris the same way again. Wondering if I deserved to. Tyler stood and walked toward the stairs, not looking back. At the bottom, he turned and said, "You can pretend this didn't mean anything, but you'd be lying." He disappeared into his room, and I was left with a heart that wouldn't slow down and a silence too heavy to carry. I sat there, alone, with the weight of what I'd done pressing against my chest like a second body. Chris's face flickered in my mind, soft, trusting, unaware. My stomach turned. I had crossed the line. And I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. The light hurt my eyes. My body was sore in places I hadn't expected, my throat dry, my mind heavy with the kind of silence you don't speak about. I opened my eyes slowly, blinked at the unfamiliar ceiling. This wasn't my room. Tyler's scent clung to the sheets. Clean, masculine, with something darker underneath, like sweat and sin. I sat up, my shirt wrinkled halfway up my chest, my jeans still unzipped, and the bitter taste of last night still on my tongue. My heart stuttered as it all came rushing back. Tyler's hands, his voice, the couch, the way I had let it happen, wanted it to happen. Not once did he force anything. I said yes with every inch of my body. That made it worse. I swung my legs off the bed and found my phone on the nightstand. 5 unread texts. Chris, 2:11 a.m. Miss you already. Chris, 2:30 a.m. Can't sleep. Wish you were here. My stomach clenched. I could still feel Tyler on my skin, like a stain that wouldn't wash off. The taste of betrayal settled in my mouth like blood after a bad punch. You up? Tyler's voice came from the hallway. I didn't answer. He knocked once, then pushed the door open. Shirtless. Casual. Like nothing had changed. Like he hadn't pulled me into a storm and watched me drown. Hey, he said with a half-smile. You don't have to look so scared. We're not strangers. I stood up fast. We're not lovers either. Tyler raised a brow. A little late for that, don't you think? My fists clenched. I have a boyfriend. And yet you spent the night in my bed. Don't, I snapped, voice cracking. He held up his hands, placating. Relax. I'm not asking for a ring. Just own what happened. I looked away, ashamed. Angry. Mostly at myself. I don't know what the hell that was, I muttered. Tyler stepped closer, but not enough to touch me. He knew better. It was real. You can lie to yourself, but your body doesn't lie. I stared at him, jaw tight. You think you know everything, don't you? I don't need to. You told me more with one look than Chris ever has with 100 I love yous. The words hit like a slap. I brushed past him, down the hall to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. The reflection felt wrong. Like I'd been replaced with someone weaker. Someone selfish. In the shower, I scrubbed myself raw. But no matter how hot the water got, I couldn't wash Tyler off me. Back in my own room, I sat on the edge of my bed, towel wrapped around my waist, staring at my phone. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. What would I even say? Sorry, babe, I cheated on you with my stepbrother? Chris didn't deserve this. He was soft in all the ways Tyler wasn't. Gentle. Loyal. We met during freshman orientation, and he made me feel safe before I even knew what I needed saving from. But safe had become predictable. And Tyler? He was fire. He didn't ask permission to exist in your world. He inhaled it. I hated that I craved what he made me feel. And now everything was broken. A knock on my door. I stayed quiet. Hey, Tyler said through the wood. I'm not here to make it worse. I laughed bitterly. Too late for that. Then let me ask you something. I didn't respond. Do you regret it? Silence stretched. Do I? Yes. No. Maybe. All at once. I don't know, I said. Tyler let out a breath like he already knew the answer. I meant what I said, he told me. You can pretend it didn't happen. But it changed you. It changed us. I didn't have the energy to argue. Whatever, I muttered. But deep down, I knew nothing about this was, whatever. This was going to follow me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Chris FaceTimed me. I let it ring. The guilt wasn't loud. It was quiet. Patient. It sat in the corner of my room, waiting for me to stop pretending. I pulled the blanket over my head and closed my eyes, trying to pretend the silence was peace. But it wasn't. It was punishment. Chris came back Sunday evening. I heard the front door unlock and the sound of his suitcase wheels dragging across the hardwood. My stomach dropped. Not because I wasn't happy to see him, but because I didn't know how to look him in the eyes. I stayed in my room, paralyzed. Hey! Chris's voice called from the hall, cheerful, unaware. You alive in there? I swallowed hard, then stood up, forcing my hands not to shake. When I opened the door, He smiled. Warm, beautiful, stupidly trusting. Missed you, he said, pulling me into a hug before I could react. His scent hit me, cologne and mint and something heartbreakingly familiar. I clung to him like a coward, pretending my arms weren't trembling. I missed you too, I lied. He pulled back just slightly, enough to look into my face. You okay? You look off. I didn't sleep much, I said quickly. He touched my cheek. Rough weekend. I almost laughed. If only he knew. Before I could answer, Tyler appeared at the end of the hall, shirtless again, hair damp from the shower. He paused when he saw us, then gave Chris a lazy nod. Yo. Chris smiled, oblivious. Hey man. Thanks for keeping him company. Tyler looked at me. A flicker of something dark passed through his eyes, unreadable. Anytime. I couldn't breathe. Chris kissed me on the temple and walked past toward the kitchen, rambling about some podcast he'd listened to on the drive. I stood frozen in the hallway, shoulders tense, while Tyler leaned against the wall like he had all the time in the world. You gonna tell him? He asked under his breath. My jaw clenched. Don't start. I'm serious, he said, softer now. You're either going to lie to him forever or you're going to end it. You don't get to do both. I glared at him. And what about you? You walk around here like nothing happened. Because I knew what it was, Tyler said coolly. You're the one still pretending you didn't want it. I turned away. If I kept looking at him, I'd fall again, and this time there'd be no excuse. That night, Chris made dinner. Candlelight, pasta, a stupid bottle of rose. He was trying. And I sat across from him, feeling like a thief in my own life. He reached across the table, took my hand. Something's wrong, he said. I can feel it. I looked at him, really looked. The curve of his jaw, the softness in his voice, the sincerity in his eyes. He didn't deserve this. My voice cracked. There's something I need to tell you. His face changed. Just slightly. But I saw the fear take root. I did something, I said. Something I can't take back. His grip on my hand didn't loosen. What happened? I hesitated. The truth was there, raw and ugly, ready to be freed. But I couldn't say it. Not yet. Instead, I pulled my hand away and stood up. I need space. Chris stood too. Are you breaking up with me? No. Yes. I don't know. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not with someone. It was bullshit. And he knew it. Tears welled in his eyes, but he nodded, jaw tight. Okay. If that's what you need. I walked out before I could change my mind. Past the kitchen. Past the photos on the wall. Past Tyler, who stood at the bottom of the stairs like a question I never wanted to answer. You told him? He asked. No, I said. Why not? Because I'm not like you, I snapped. Tyler's lips curled into something between a smirk and a wound. You sure about that? I didn't reply. I just opened the door and stepped out into the night air. I got a hotel room. The silence there was different. Not heavy. Not haunted. Just blank. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my reflection in the black screen of the television. I didn't feel free. I didn't feel strong. I felt like someone in the middle of a war with himself, one part wanting to run back to the comfort of what was, the other aching for the danger of what could be. Tyler had stirred something in me. Something I couldn't unfeel. A hunger. A mirror. But Chris had loved me without question. And I had broken something pure just to feel wanted in a different way. The truth was, I wasn't a victim in this story. I was the villain. And yet, in some twisted part of me, I wondered, if Tyler called right now, would I go back? I didn't know the answer. That scared me more than anything.